Ladies and gentlemen, good day. I am clairvoyant medium Tikhonov. Everything I am about to say is intended for entertainment purposes. America invaded Venezuela last week and captured Maduro. He is now standing trial in New York for drug trafficking. China, Iran, and Russia have close ties to Venezuela, oil, weapons, etc. They are likely to oppose US intervention. These countries can influence the situation by blocking economic sanctions against the US. Russia and China both have strong economic and political ties to Venezuela. Expect diplomatic, economic, and possibly even military responses to counterbalance US influence. Venezuela sold oil to us and to Europe, and transactions were settled in euros. Dutch companies previously helped build up the oil industry in Venezuela. The American invasion now means that European countries are forced to buy oil from the Americans at much higher, unserious prices, and moreover, we will have to pay for this oil in dollars. Through this invasion, the Americans want to make us even more dependent on the United States. Years ago, America, together with the British, blew up the Nord Stream pipeline in order to cut us off from cheap Russian gas. Instead, we are now buying more expensive LNG gas from the Americans at serious wartime prices. We are also importing much more gas from Algeria, Qatar, and more countries. America is preparing for a war with China, Russia, Iran, Colombia, Mexico, Cuba, Brazil, Greenland, and many countries. America wants to annex all of South America because the word America appears in its names. South America is strategically important to the US for its control over sea routes and the protection of US interests from rival powers. Also important because of its proximity to the Panama Canal. This is crucial for the maritime transport. It started first with Bolsonaro in Brazil, who is now in prison. The same was done with Milei in Argentina. America is planning to annex the Dutch Caribbean. The US is very interested in the natural sources what lies in the ground of the Caribbean, South America, and Greenland, like iron, oil, gas, copper, gold, aluminum, agriculture, and food. Controlling these areas allows easier access to import trade routes and economic influence in the region. The US has heavily involved itself in Latin America and the Caribbean to protect its sphere of influence. European interference in the Americas is seen as a threat. America is also making itself an enemy of Europe. America is playing the role of a major colonial aggressor. This is related to the Monroe Doctrine. If America will invade and claim the Dutch, Yoruba, Curacao, Bonaire, etc., it would be a blatant violation of the UN Charter, which prohibits the use of force against sovereign states. The Netherlands and the EU has to react. The Netherlands would almost certainly declare a state of war, and the EU and NATO would likely consider political and economic sanctions against the US. Diplomatically, this would trigger a global crisis. America would annex to take control over these countries such as French Guiana, Falkland Islands, South Georgia, and the South Sandwich Islands, Bonaire and St. Eustatius and Saba, and many more. All of these territories officially belong to other countries like France, the UK, the Netherlands. US annexation without consent would be considered an invasion or illegal annexation under international law, leading to major diplomatic and legal consequences. The United Nations would almost certainly oppose such action and could impose sanctions. This would severely strain US relations with EU countries and will trigger military and economic conflicts. America wants to do this to gain strategic, economic, and military strength and greater control over these regions. All American presidents, such as Obama and Biden, would have done exactly the same. This is all about American power on the world stage, because otherwise America will be pushed off the throne by China. The American elites are very insecure and afraid that they will soon lose their wealth and power, and therefore they are taking action. They are pursuing an aggressive expansionist policy aimed at bringing as many surrounding resources and markets as possible under their own control. We have already seen this in the Second World War. I expect that after a horrific war, America will be brought to a halt. The entire world will turn against America and impose many embargoes. This will be disastrous for the American economy. Many American boys and girls will be sent into war, while the elite and their children remain safely at home. This is what the MAGA supporters voted for. Over this possible third war will largely take place in America, Central America, and South America. We in Europe will also feel the consequences, especially in terms of energy supply and higher costs of living. If we are not careful, we will become almost completely dependent on foreign parties, because the Americans have gained an extraordinary amount of power over many European countries. America wants to make us dependent on them and impose American policy on the EU countries for the benefit of the American economy. We are expected to dance to their tune. I see America losing this struggle. Almost nothing will remain of America if the Americans do not pay attention. As the Netherlands and as Europe, we must pursue a completely different course if we want to avoid a third world war. We must not allow ourselves to be dragged into a war that nobody wants.